it would seem, a pliant Supreme Court that is allowing him and giving him the space to utterly redefine what executive authority means in the United States of America. And anyone who's done the most kind of, if you've done your GCSE in kind of civics or politics, 3 co-equal branches of government, of which he is one co-equal branch. And what Donald Trump is doing is totally redefining that. And you just look at, let's consider then the releases of, I think there was a lot of that Donald Trump is announcing, and so that this doesn't sound like a Trump diatribe. I think there's a lot of the economic stuff makes a huge amount of sense, and if you're American, you're going to be investing and you're going to be confident of growth. We can come back to that. But let's just stay with the January the 6th hostages, the J6 hostages, as he called them, which I think is the most gratuitously offensive and grotesque description of the people that he has freed, because these are people who committed violence against US Capitol policemen and women who were there protecting the Capitol on a day of sanctity for the US Constitution, January the 6th, when the Electoral College votes are tallied up and the Vice President declares who is the winner. And Donald Trump has freed people who were involved in an attempted insurrection, who were convicted of seditious activity. And these are people that committed acts of violence, that they had plotted the overthrow of a free and fair election, and now they walk free. And Donald Trump is even holding out the possibility that they may be able to assume positions in public life in the future from the Proud Boys and the rest of them. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I sort of tried to make a promise myself, knowing that Trump was coming back, to do my best not to sound hysterical, to try and always be measured, to try and not get distracted by all of the noise that he puts out, because that's what he wants, right? And that's often what his allies want. And to think, he won by with a comprehensive, but he won and he won well. He had a mandate, and to treat that with respect. Nonetheless, it is, I think, impossible not to recognise and to point out just how astounding it is that not only that he has pardoned some of the January 6th insurrectionists, but he's pardoned virtually all of them.
Yeah.
As we are sitting here right now, there is virtually no one serving or receiving criminal sanction for anything that happened that day. I think that is, and okay, he had a mandate to do it, but I think it is because he said he was going to do it, although he was never clear that he would do it for everybody, but he said he was going to release some of them. And I think that, if nothing else, it is a mark of and a sign of just the extent to which the Republican Party is now the Trump Party.
Yeah.
That he's done this, and there has been barely a murmur of dissent from the Republican Party. This was the party that liked to see itself and projected itself as the party of law and order.
Exactly.
And yet here we are in a situation where, as you said, John, he's not just released any old prisoner. He's even released the former leader of the Proud Boys, a paramilitary fascist organisation. And you know what? Again, maybe this won't be the case, but I can totally understand that if you were an American and you were seeing that, there is another way of looking at it, which is not only is he allowing these people to get away without sanction, not only is he basically rewarding them in a sense, not only is he telling us and his followers telling us that black is white and white is black because they say no insurrection happened that day. It was all just a load of people just going into the building and that they were politically persecuted. So not only is it prosecuting that post-truth world, but on top of that as well, I can understand if you're American that you might see it, that he's like releasing his personal militia here. He's creating a group of people who are loyal to him because they owe his freedom, their freedom, to him. And guess what? Most of them are probably armed to the teeth. And maybe you can say, oh, that's being hysterical or worrying about it too much, or that's never going to happen. But, I can totally understand how if you were an American and sat there and looking at the events as what have gone on over the last 24, 48 hours, and you see how completely unbowed and uninhibited Trump is, yeah. I can understand why you would worry about that.
So the thing about what happened on January the 6th, awful as it seemed at the time, that there was this attempted insurrection and attempted to stop the certification of Joe Biden's victory. Actually, what came afterwards in the trials and the evidence that was heard in court, where people were judged by 12 men and women who are US citizens, who were the jury in a case, it was far, far more serious. And as you say, the paramilitary nature of what they did. There were arsenals of weapons that had been put into hotel rooms in Arlington, Virginia, just across from Washington, D.C., that they were going to be ready to use at the moment's order. There was a control system. There was a line of command. They were taking orders. This was not just some spontaneous uprising of anger and fury about Donald Trump losing the election. This was organised. This wasn't spontaneous. And these people are now free. As you say, who knows what role they're going to play? And, you know, they're kind of like they are dogs ready to be unleashed by Donald Trump at a moment's notice.
Who said this in January 2021? To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay. Who do you reckon said that?
Well, I tell you who said that. It was Donald Trump.
Correct.
And it was said to him after he'd been threatened by his cabinet that unless he did say that, they would invoke Article 25 of the Constitution and remove him from office. Yeah. And that was the only hostage video we ever saw from Donald Trump, where his position was so weak then. But look at it. Here we are 4 years on, and he is freeing them, and the Republican Party is just going, yeah, okay.
I mean, having just got back from there, I think that the main thing, and when we're talking about how uninhibited he is and how he's clearly pushing at the limits of presidential power and presidential authority, which is clearly going to be a big theme, certainly at least for the next 2 years before the midterms and probably beyond that as well. I think that, the difference with 2017 is so marked in the sense that in 2017 there was a moment of resistance. America right now is a moment of acquiescence.
Oh, totally.
Everyone, politically, culturally, economically, everything has given in to Donald Trump. There is a complete, even among his most ardent enemies, and you remember this, John, I was there at the time as well, in the immediate days after he had just been elected in 2017, or he just got into office, you had all these resistant marches, the women's marches, all this sort of stuff. There was such energy and fire and fury on the Democrat side. There is nothing. There is just exhaustion. A lot of people are simply trying actually to tune out of it because Donald Trump, if I could describe it in any way, I would say that what Donald Trump is, he has worn America down. He is inspired, yes, and exhausted in equal measure. And now he can, for the moment at least, his writ runs large.
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.